The only reason I ever left that marriage was he took me to his place of business one night with the intention of killing me. And he had me in a headlock to try to break my neck. And he was telling me how he was going to do it. He had a backhoe he was going to dig. And it was very traumatizing. And long story short, his keys for the backhoe thing or the machinery thing were in the car. And he's like, we got to go back to the car and get the keys to this. And he's dragging me around. And when we get back there, he realized that he locked the keys in the car. So now we're locked out of the car and he has to call somebody. So now someone's going to know we're out there, right?
Healing was the warm-up. This is the main fucking event. Welcome to Go Regulate Yourself, the unapologetic, unfiltered love letter you didn't know you needed. This is where mental health meets real life, where growth gets gritty, and where we stop pretending healing makes us saints. Think of it like therapy with tequila shots and a side of tough love. In this space, we're learning how to take responsibility for our shit, face the chaos of life, and become the best version of who we are. So if you're ready for your weekly "what the fuck am I doing" moment, let's dive in. Valerie Maksym is a life coach, speaker, and Amazon best-selling author of the 37-Year Run. She helps midlife women stop sweeping their pain under the rug, heal what's been holding them back, and step boldly into the next chapter of their lives. Through real talk, practical tools, and lived experience, Valerie empowers women to do the inner work, reclaim their confidence, and become the strongest version of themselves inside and out. Now, our conversation today was such a good one, and Valerie brings some real depth to the idea that certain things in life can completely change who we are and how we show up, but it is always our responsibility to heal. And it does not matter where you find yourself in life or how much time has passed. There is always an opportunity to do the inner work, heal, and move forward. I know that you are going to get so much wisdom out of Valerie's insight today, and I cannot wait for you to hear what she has to share. Without further ado, let's dive on in. Hello, Reg Babes, and welcome back to another episode on the Go Regulate Yourself podcast. My name is Ryan, I am your host, and today we are back with another Fridays with Friends episode. Today's conversation is one that I think a lot of us can resonate with, which is all about those moments where something happens and it shifts the trajectory of our life. Who we were prior to the incident and who we become afterwards can be two completely different things. And today we're going to talk about it. So my guest is Valerie. Valerie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. I am so excited to have you here. I know we're going to get into some really good conversation today, and I can't wait for our listeners to hear all about it. But before we do, I have a question that I love to start off on that I ask every single guest on my podcast, and that is, What does the word regulate mean to you?
Well, for me, the season of life I'm in, I feel like my nervous system has just been so dysregulated in so many ways over the years of me stuffing things down. And so I feel like we heal like in layers. And this season, I've really been healing my nervous system because I just feel like, just so dysregulated. And when I regulate that, I think that's like, coming to a balance. It's not perfect, but whenever I get, dysregulated, having the awareness to knowing like, okay, I need to come back and regulate, get back to whatever my center is. So that way, life can go a little bit smoother than it's been going. Because it's not fun when it's dysregulated.
It definitely isn't. But it is all about that, right? It's about figuring out when we feel a little bit funky, when we feel a little bit off, and how to bring ourselves back to who we actually are without the emotional spirals or the fears or the limiting beliefs and the things that completely take us off kilter. So I appreciate that definition, and I agree wholeheartedly. All right. So for our listeners who don't already know who you are, can you take a moment to introduce yourself? Let us know a little bit about you, where you're from, what you do, that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, my name is Valerie Maksym Davidson. I just married about a year and a half ago, but I am an author, and my author name is Valerie Maksym. I have 4 kids, 4 grandkids, happily married here in the Woodlands, Texas. I I have been a personal trainer for the last 10 years, as well as a life coach, and I'm transitioning into public speaking. I've written 2 books, I have another book on the way. So that's a little bit about me. I love working out, love outdoors, and the beach is literally my happy place. I go to the beach and the world is all better getting in that ocean.
I mean, I
So,
can resonate with that too. I am definitely a beach and water person. I tend to seek that out every time we are traveling. That tends to be the place that we want to end up and be. And there is just something so calming and resetting about water itself. I truly believe that it is an energetic portal and threshold that can completely wash away any of that stuck and stagnant energy and just put us into a completely different place. So I get that for sure.
yeah.
So, we are here to talk about a conversation today that, as I said at the beginning, I think a lot of our audience will really resonate with in terms of what happens when we go through an experience that just completely changes our lives and who we are as a result. And so, I want you to take us back to the moment that your dad fell. And I want to know what led up to that moment, what was going on in the exact second that it happened. And also, what was your 12-year-old brain telling you with what she had just seen? What was she using that information for? What was being programmed in the background that perhaps you weren't even aware of at the time?
Well, my dad had, at the time, he had leukemia, and during that time, he would be in the hospital for months at a time. It's not like that today, but he would be gone even weeks on end. And he came home that weekend because he was just really weak and really tired. And I had been babysitting that evening, got home about midnight. And my mom's like, I was 12 years old. She said, I'm so exhausted. Can you stay up with your dad? And I said, okay. So I had to help him walk from her bedroom to, we're trying to go to the living room to watch TV, but he wasn't strong enough. So we made it barely to my bedroom and he had to lay on the bed. And that was interesting looking back on that because I thought he was just going to sleep, but like he would go to sleep and then he'd kind of wake up and tell me he was seeing angels. Like, I don't know. My 12-year-old brain didn't know that he was that close to dying. And it was just a very interesting, like I was just trying to get to the living room. I'm like, okay, like dad, let's go. I think we were in there for a good hour. I got him up. We're heading to the living room, and there's a side bathroom right there. He's like, I need to go to the bathroom. So I got him in there, got him all standing, and then right when I let go of him, he like fell and hit the ground. And I just remember because it happened so fast. I just remember looking and seeing he looked purple, and I ran to my room, and I don't know why I ran to my room and I didn't try to help, but I ran to my room. I heard my mom jump up out of her bed, and she ran in there. And, in that moment, that was scary because I remember her calling, the ambulance, and it took them like 30 minutes to get there. It was a really busy night, and it what they didn't come quick. So I remember the panic in that. And then she had the neighbor come over and get me and put me in one of their back bedrooms to go to sleep. And looking back on that, I was already traumatized. And now I'm being put in the back bedroom of somebody's house, not knowing, did the ambulance get there? What's happening? What's going on? Um, there were so many things in that moment looking back that I learned. That was the first moment my nervous system was ever dysregulated in a way that it's fight or flight. And nobody tells you how to process it or how to, when that's your first encounter of it, later in life, that just becomes what your go-to is when things, are tough. You don't know how to handle it. And for me, I had to be strong. It was like nobody's here to protect me. Nobody's here to console me. Nobody's here to so subconsciously, I learned those things. Like I have to be strong. I have to be independent. I have to look out for myself. And so I think that looking back, that really started, I feel like my childhood pretty much ended there. Looking back on it. At that point, I probably wouldn't have said that, but looking back, because when that happened, I began to have panic attacks. And I think I was in 6th grade. And I remember walking in the halls and just everything coming in, my heart pounding, like I was literally going to die. And I never told anybody because I was just extremely scared. I didn't know it was a panic attack. I didn't know what it was. And, that was again, my nervous system was so dysregulated. We didn't, as a family, we didn't talk about it. Like it happened. And the next day, you know, life went on. We didn't really, there wasn't really, I don't know, it was back then nobody really went to counseling or different things. So it was a different time in you just had to learn to be strong for yourself. And I think that really shaped me in a different way because by having those panic attacks, I didn't want to have really many friends because I didn't want that to happen in front of somebody. So I was in gymnastics at the time. So I literally just inundated myself in the gymnastics. Like I didn't have friends. I didn't date through school. So sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Like I didn't go to any dances. I didn't get asked to things. I was always called quiet, shy, and I was because I literally was protecting myself because I didn't know how to explain, to heal, to anything that was going on inside of me.
Mm. What you're explaining here is like suddenly being thrust into a completely different lifestyle than what had been up until that moment. Like here you are, a child
Hmm.
living a fairly normal childhood, and
Hmm.
suddenly something happens that completely changes that trajectory. And it's not a gentle transition that's occurring, it's
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
one moment to something completely different. And so I'm
Hmm.
curious with the response that you had felt and actually kind of conveyed in your own life, what, the action steps were that you took moving forward in terms of changing kind of who you were and how you were showing up in the world. Was this something that you unconsciously took upon yourself to like not grieve, to not process, to just keep moving forward and not deal with the emotions? Or was this something that was being told to you or implied by the people in your life that there was no space for grief and that you had to just kind of like buck up and keep moving? What was that like?
Well, for me, we were never told anything. So it wasn't told how to grieve, how not to grieve. Very quickly after my dad passed, I need to ask my mom. I think it was like 3 months. It was not very long. She came home married to someone who worked for my dad. And so that brought a whole another layer of things because he was a violent man. And I remember seeing in her bedroom door, there would be a shotgun to her get her head. And I would run out the window to go call the police to come, because I already lost my dad. We didn't talk about it. Now she's married to this man that I don't know if he's going to kill her. I'm 13 years old right now. That's it just I think I just stuffed things down from that age on. You don't know how to process it. So it's kind of like just put it under the rug and keep going. Nobody's coming here to save you or, to, make you feel safe. And, it's hard for my mom to hear me talk about this because this was not what she was a young mom having me too. She had me at 16. So she was a young mom and it wasn't like her intention to not talk about it and all of those things. And I did have a conversation with her, why didn't we talk about it? And in her mind, she feels like we did. But she did say she did talk to a counselor, and they're like, well, keep life as normal as possible. And so I think in that, she was just trying to do the best that she could, but we never had any, conversations. And then when she came home married, and it was, there was never a time or a space really to even talk about it. Life just kept going. It wasn't stopping for anything.
Mm. I know that speaking from my own experience in the moments where things have been very traumatic, or I've seen, or I've witnessed, or I've experienced something that changed who I was and what my life looked like as a result, I too kind of pocketed those emotions inside and felt like I had to keep going or there was no other choice and that I couldn't, show up in the full flood of emotions that I was having. And maybe this is a little bit of nervous system dysregulation where we're moving into that space where our
Hmm.
nervous system is literally shutting down and just trying to survive and get us to the next day. But I do think that part of it was me kind of self imposing a lesson upon myself of what that moment was teaching me. And when I look back at these very specific moments and experiences that I've had in my life, I can see how they completely changed how I showed up as an adult in my life later on. And sometimes some of the not so healthy maybe habits or ways of being that I ended up with because of it. So I'm curious, based on your experience, how did this impact who you became as an adult? What were some of the things that you ended up maybe struggling with or attracting back into your life, or maybe not being able to go after because of these specific beliefs or fears or ways of operating that this had taught you? Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yes. And I didn't realize any of this till I was 50. So this has been going back and healing from it. Like I said, I really didn't have, no one ever asked me to the dance or, going out. And this family moved in down the street from us. And my mom's like, don't talk to them. I didn't know why. Like she didn't explain why. It was, just don't. And I did because he was nice to me. And, long story short, looking back, I'm like, how could I have attracted that person? Now he already had a felony. He carried a gun. He already, you know, he was already like on juvenile. I forget what they call it back then, but he'd have to check in with his juvenile officer or something. And I was drawn to him, and I got pregnant like right away. And I'm like, okay, how do you know? It was a lot going on at the time, but looking back, I think because I didn't ever have anybody protecting me, that I felt in my mind. I didn't feel like I ever had protection, like all these things I've been through. And then I see this guy that, oh my gosh, everybody's scared of him. Like he's going to protect me. He has, it's very
Mm,
dysfunctional, right? It's like I'm coming from a very, I'm not healed. I'm totally, there's been no healing taking place. So I can see looking back how I was attracted to that, how it's like in my mind, I had this fairy tale that I'm going to marry one person. We're going to be married for the rest of our lives. It's going to be happily ever after. And it wasn't. It wasn't. I again lost my voice in that relationship, and I didn't have any say in anything. I had um, everything was taken away from me in that relationship. Let's just say I couldn't have friends. Was not allowed to talk to a man. Period. No matter what. If I even looked at a man that walked by, we were at church. I was in trouble. I had 3 kids in 3.5 years. No car for me. And I just learned to live that way, that I just obeyed because I was scared. I didn't want him to hurt me like I've seen him hurt other people. So I for 10 years I lived like that. Like that was my first thing because again, my nervous system was going haywire with him in fight, flight, freeze, disassociation. Like literally,
mm,
I would always feel like I wasn't even there. And I think I was in such a survival mode that I just need to, if I can just breathe one more breath, I'm doing good. So it was
mm,
really hard to, it was really hard in that. And the only reason I ever left that marriage was he took me to his place of business one night with the intention of killing me. And he had me in a headlock to try to break my neck. And he was telling me how he was going to do it. He had a backhoe he was going to dig and bury. It was very traumatizing. And long story short, his keys for the backhoe thing or the machinery thing were in the car. And he's like, we got to go back to the car and get the keys to this. And he's dragging me around. And when we get back there, he realized that he locked the keys in the car. So now we're locked out of the car and he has to call somebody. So now someone's going to know we're out there, right? So I think that was, I mean, said many prayers under my breath for that. And that week, I had to leave and I wouldn't have left that relationship. But that was the start of very unhealthy patterns in my life. It just was like, when you don't take the time to heal, like my life is like one of those after the other, one of those after the other until I hit like 50, 45, until I decided, okay, we have to change this. We got to fix this because this is not how my
mm,
life was supposed to be. I don't know. You just wake up one day and you're like, this is, I was angry at a lot of things. I was angry at God. I was like, I was angry. I was like, I'm a good person, never cheated on people. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I do my best to be kind and have peace, and I was the peacemaker, and just all of the things. But I completely lost myself in all of that. Like I didn't even know who I
mm.
was.
Of course. And I think you're describing right now the moment or the moments that often are the waking up part for us in our lives. I know that I can resonate with what you're sharing, and I'm sure so many of our listeners can too, where it's kind of like one of those things where if we don't pay attention and make changes right away, we get a pebble. And if we ignore the pebble, then we get a rock. And if we ignore the rock, then we get a boulder, then a bigger boulder, then a
Hmm.
bigger boulder, until
Hmm.
eventually we can't not listen. We have to do something to change and to open our eyes and wake up and heal. And I truly believe there's no such thing as it being too late or too far
Hmm.
gone. I think no matter what we're dealing with in our lives, no matter what we've been through, there is a way to get through that, to get past it, to overcome it, and to get to a place where life can be magical and delicious and all of the things that we want it to be. But we
Hmm.
have to first be willing to look at that darkness and make those changes and face it head on, because without that, we're going to continue to be stuck where we always have been. And speaking to your journey, what you've described here, you said, the girl that lost her father kind of became a woman who ended up kind of proving her worth essentially by being enough for everybody else. So you were over functioning, you were over giving, you were being the dependable one, showing up for everybody else rather than yourself. And from the outside, this can actually look like a personality. So I'm curious to know, like, in the moment, did it feel like your personality? Did it feel like this is who I am and I'm just a giver and I just give all of myself away? Or did you recognize that those actions that you were taking didn't feel good and it just took some time to break?
I just thought that's who I was. I just thought, I'm a good person. I want to keep the peace. I don't want anybody else to hurt like I hurt. So I had so much empathy. Like I could feel other people's heartbeats and pain. And, you know, I, I would lose my voice, and it's whatever anybody else wanted, that's what I would do. I never thought to ever think, what did I want? I never thought that I was to love myself. Like I was very big on loving everybody else. Like, I had so much love to give, my kids and my friends and family, like, but you know, never once thought to give myself love. And I will say that by not loving yourself as a parent, you have no idea the pain that your kids don't tell you. Like I went through it. My son, whenever I ended up leaving, he was like 20, 21, something like that. And he was a smart kid. He could have, gone far in college and all of those things. But he said his only place in life was going to be the grave or prison because he was in so much pain watching my pain that he couldn't fix it. And I
Mm,
was telling him, well, I'm good. I'm fine. Like I was the peacekeeper and I was, doing all the things for everybody, but he could see through that. He's like, no, you are a shell of a person. You are not even like, and we really battled that out for a couple years. Like it was rough because I truly did not see it. Like, I'm like, I was in a second marriage at that time. I'm like, no, I love him and all of this. And he's like, no, you don't. And it was very interesting that when I began to heal and I had left that second marriage and I decided at 45, I have to heal. Like I have to figure this out. And I did go to each of my kids and I did just apologize for anything that I have done, but I can't fix it, but I'm going to work on myself. And I will tell you, all four of my kids are absolutely thriving in life and doing so good. And it stems, and they will tell you it just stemmed on their mom healing, their mom having a voice, their mom laughing. Like, my kids are like, Mom, your pictures before when you see them, you didn't even smile. And I didn't. I didn't know how to smile. And you didn't hug people and you were so closed off, like you didn't let anybody in, like it wasn't even like you were here. And
mm,
now like the joy and the peace and the happiness from healing, like it literally has healed my kids in ways that I never put it together that when my life was broken, that it would affect my kids in the way that it did.
mm. Isn't that the truth, though? I mean, it doesn't matter how old your kids are, they learn through what you do for your own life, not through what you tell them. So
Right.
the actions that you take, the effort that you put in, the the things that you do to prioritize yourself, to take care of yourself, to heal yourself, that is what they end up witnessing and using to influence their own change. And I think the fact that they are absolutely thriving in their lives right now just goes to show how far that you have come and all of the hard work that you've put into your life. And I think that's something that you should be very proud of, because that's what we all aspire to get to, that point, right? Where we are positively influencing others based on the things that we've done for ourselves in our own lives. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I do. And I didn't realize, someone was telling me that they have a degree in psychology stuff. But anyways, they were explaining to me that what our ancestors haven't healed from, it just goes down from generation to generation until somebody takes the time to heal from it. They're like, if you have alcoholics in your family, you'll just see, oh, great grandpa was that, and grandpa was that, and dad was that. And then you'll see one person that breaks that, beats it. And then you look at their lineage and it's like, oh, that stopped there. But, that's in all different areas. That's in, I think, even in ways of, we don't stuff things down anymore. We talk about it. Me and my kids, we talk about all the hard things. We have learned to use our voice. We don't we don't assume things. We don't argue either. We have learned literally some emotional intelligence that, hey, if we're not liking something, tell me why this is X, Y, Z. And I think that has, I see a lot of things like that. I look back on, grandparents, different people in the life, like they just, everything was just stuffed down. You just didn't talk about it. It went under the rug. It didn't matter. And it feels very good to see, because when you just stuff things down, and when we get to like, I think 40s or 50s, you can't stuff anything else down. You're going to pop or blow up. And my kids are so much further along than I was. And
Mm-hmm.
so it just makes my heart happy to see, like, oh, wow. I mean, yes, no family is perfect, but I will tell you, we are millions of miles ahead of what we were just even a few years ago.
Oh gosh, that makes my heart so happy to hear that. I also want to know, because I'm curious in what you had shared previously. You mentioned that your first husband attempting to kill you was kind of like the breaking point of that first marriage. But then
Uh-huh.
it was after your second marriage when you truly started to heal and do the work on yourself. So I'm wondering, what was like the ultimate straw, the breaking point? Was there one specific moment that you were like, it's changing or my life is done? Or was it gradual, just everything kept building up until that point with the conversations with your son and things that were happening? What actually shifted you to change, and how did you actually take that step? Hey, Reg Babe, have you heard the news? Go Regulate Yourself is coming to you live and in person. That's right, we have the first live podcast event happening in Edmonton, Alberta this September. Join us at the Orange Hub Theatre on September 25th with a live audience where we are interviewing 4 incredibly impactful speakers on what it takes to overcome shame, heal the hard stuff that you've been through in your life, and come out on top. Tickets are on sale right now, and until August 9th, you can grab our early bird pricing for a low rate of $54.99. You can get yours by heading to GoRegulateYourself.com and clicking the live event tab at the top of the screen. We cannot wait to see you there, and don't forget to go regulate yourself.
So when I divorced the second time, it was really, really hard because, mind you, I had always been a stay-at-home mom. And, I live in the Woodlands, Texas, and it is a pricey place to live here. So never having to be the breadwinner and, do all the things, it was really, really hard. And I remember a friend of mine from high school was having a charity thing at her house. And I was like, oh, she said everybody's invited. So I reached out to her. I said, oh, I'd like to come by, and, getting totally out of my comfort zone there. And I went over there, and there was a lady there, and she was kind of speaking, one of the ladies that was speaking, and she was a life coach. And I had never heard of a life coach. So I had already been in counseling for many, many years, but I never heard of a life coach. And we began to talk. And so I was like, okay, it wasn't cheap and I didn't really have any money, but I like literally put like $1,500 down to have a few sessions with her. And when I filled out the paperwork, I literally sat there and cried. And I called her and I said, I can't do this because I can't even answer one question on this paper. And that would to me was a point of this is worse than I thought it was. You know,
Mhm.
you're asking me like, what's your favorite restaurant? Like, what's your style of dressing? Like, what do you like to do for fun? What's your hobbies? Where's your favorite place to vacation? Like, I've just always been told what to do, what to wear, where we're going, who I can talk to. And, she's like, no, 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 it's okay. You don't have to. But I do remember like that was just a really moment in my life that, okay, I need to figure this out because in my head, how my life was going to turn out was literally couldn't have been further from it. And I had another friend who also told me because I had been in three relationships. So I had somebody right after, not right after, but a year after my divorce, I was with someone for 2 years. And that ended in a terrible way too. And so she's like, you are the common denominator. And that's really hard to hear when you have been all the things have happened to you. Like, you've been cheated on, you've been gaslit, you've been, all the things. Someone tried to kill you. Like it's really hard to look in the mirror. But I did. I looked in the mirror and I said, you know what? If there's any part of this that could have been my fault or I want to own it, because yes, I did see the red flags looking back. I shouldn't have married either one of them. I shouldn't have dated that guy. I was so broken that anybody that gave me attention, I would just like, oh my gosh, somebody likes me. Like I didn't, think anybody would like me. And I would just, take that person. And that's the problem when we don't heal. That is what, when you're not healed, you just continue to take what's less, it's not good for you. And it is hard. I was single for 8 years between I had that 2 year relationship, but outside of that, from my second marriage to finding the husband I'm dating now, it was 8 years. And it was 8 years of everyday intentional healing. And when I say intentional, I would be listening to a podcast. I did Tony Robbins courses. You know, I was just in the world of, okay, I need to figure out what in me does not see my worth and value. What in me, you know, just let people walk all over me. And my
Mhm.
life coach, when we first started, she was, she said, you need to find self love. And for 3 years, I just was like, okay, whatever. I have self love. Like I love everybody so big. I don't. But see, when you're broken, you don't even know what you don't know, and you're just like, oh, I have self love. Like I have more love to give. My core being, my core like everything is authenticity and love. Like that's my core values. Like that is like I have no problem loving, but I never loved myself. And so she told me, she goes, well, I want you to say out loud, I am beautiful. What? Like I couldn't get it off my tongue because I had two men who that I was with that told me the opposite in different ways all the time. So I was like, it took me 2 years to be able to say it like, I, I, I am, I am beautiful. Like I couldn't, get it out right. It took me 5 years to be able to say I am beautiful, but I would say like I'm beautiful. Like you don't really, there's nothing you don't really know that I'm really meaning it, right? Because it doesn't, but I'm saying it. Took me 7 years to be able to understand that I am beautiful because I didn't, to me, beauty was the women that I was cheated on with. Well, I don't look like that. She's
Mhm.
5 feet tall, brown hair, brown eyes. Um, I'm not beautiful. If I was beautiful, he wouldn't have cheated on me for her. So that's beautiful. So it's very interesting when we are broken and haven't healed the meaning we give to things, like the meaning to beautiful. And now when I talk to women, I say, "Can you say I'm beautiful?" And I will tell you 9.5 out of 10 can't say that out loud. And
Mhm.
to me it's very sad because it's like, what is your definition of beautiful? Because to me beautiful, it's not a shape or a look or it's not the to me it's inside. It's when a person becomes the best version of themselves. It you've seen women of all sizes that year round and you're like, oh my gosh, she is so freaking beautiful, because she's being her authentic loving, self.
Mhm.
Like that 12-year-old girl is coming out and she's twirling around the room and just being her, and you're like, I want that. Like, that is beauty. And so really I had to define what was beautiful before I could start saying it. And now I can say, okay, I'm beautiful. We're all beautiful, but it's a sad thing when, women can't say that. Like that just breaks my heart because it's like who in your life and who down the road made you even think that? Like, we're all so beautiful. We all have special different things to bring to this world. And so that is a lot of the line of the work I do. That's my next book is coming out to the 90-day identity reset that I've written. I think it is so, so, so important. And anyways, I get very excited on that topic, but that was, some of the moments of realizing my brokenness and getting real with myself, I guess, just looking in the mirror and saying, okay, I am the common denominator. I can't fix something I
Mm.
can't acknowledge. I have to acknowledge
Mhm.
it. I over and over and over and over and over again thousands of times put stuff under the rug because my nervous system couldn't handle it. And I realized that when I started to get in my like 40s, 35, 40, 45, I never healed my nervous system from watching my dad die, from having my first husband do that to me, to being cheated on. I did never healed my nervous system. So it just I just kept putting things under the rug. Like the second they would happen, it would go under the rug because I couldn't put it anywhere. Like I'm going to blow up. I'm going to pop. It's got to go under the rug. Let's just keep moving. And it's not a fun place to be. But and like you're saying, regulate your nervous system is not regulated. Just trying to come back to that balance. But that's the downside. People are like, well, I don't want to think about it because it's too painful. But it's really too painful not to set in it and work through it because when you don't, it catches up to you. And it caught up to me. I was 50 years old before I started even figuring and healing from these things.
Mm. This is it's hitting me really deep because I think about how prevalent this is for each of us in our lives. And I know, speaking to myself and my journey, a lot of my true change, a lot of my true healing happened in the moment that I also admitted I was the cause of most of my problems that were happening in my life. And it takes a lot of courage to say those words out loud and to
Uh-huh,
look in the mirror and admit that the problem is yourself. It's really uncomfortable and shitty to do that. But the truth is that we are all making choices, whether they are
uh-huh,
conscious or unconscious. We are making choices. We are choosing things actively for our life, even if it doesn't feel like it in moments. And
uh-huh,
the moment that we can recognize that we actually are the cause of the problem, guess what? We also get to be the solution. And that is where we take all of our power back and we step into this place of recognizing our patterns and being able to do something differently, break that cycle and create something really magical and beautiful with our lives instead. And I think that's so incredible that first and foremost, you had a friend point that out to you because I think that a lot of us would be scared to say that to somebody in our lives and be
yeah.
so truthful in that information. But also the fact that you then looked in the mirror, you took that information in and you did something with it. I think that is such a cool thing and such a cool place to be at, having achieved that and getting to the place that you're in your life right now. And based upon that, I want to ask you about rebuilding your identity because it's very clear to me that where you are right now is completely different than where you were, 10 years ago, maybe even
Mhm,
less. And so when we're talking about like rebuilding our identity from the inside out, we're facing that mirror inwards, we're looking at our patterns, we're making changes. I'm curious to know if there was anything that you thought was you in your life and how you were showing up that turned out to be a trauma response instead that maybe surprised you or shocked you that you didn't expect. Was there anything like that?
I think there's a lot of things that, were like I was not expecting, because when you really start looking at, healing your identity, I thought I knew what that meant, but I was, way off. Like identity is like your computer system running in the background and that voice that says, "Oh wait, you're not enough," or "Oh, you're too much." "Oh, you need to not be so much. You need to downplay. You need to um just all the things like that you can't do this and who do you think you are? You don't have all the education for that. Like all of the things that play in our head when we have to get down and heal that. Like if everything was taken away from you, before I thought my identity always being I was a mom. My identity, I did bodybuilding for 8 years. That was my therapy. My identity, was it can be your job. It can be there's so many things that people think that's their identity, but that's not. That's what you do. Like when you're stripped of everything, your income, your job, all of that, like if you were stripped of every last thing that you had and you were sitting there like, who are you? Like, what drives that's why when people lose things, like things in life, they can rebuild when you have the right identity, knowing, it can be done. So I think for me, it's just been a battle of when triggers come on my healing journey. I know people don't like the word trigger. I don't really know what other word to call it, but I'll just give you even an example now. Like with my husband, when I started dating him, I told myself, this is the first person I'm going to be authentically myself with because I really didn't think it was going to go anywhere. So I'm like, I have nothing to lose. I'm like, I'm going to be myself and I'm not going to put any triggers on him. And I stuck to that. I did stick to that, but I will tell you, like things still come up in your when you're on your healing journey in your mind. Like um, when I first started dating him, he had a poker tournament in Vegas, and he didn't know, but I've had two people in my life cheat on me in Vegas, and so for me, Vegas is a trigger. It's like I was already telling myself, I can't, I don't think I can date him, but I didn't tell him that. He went to Vegas, like I think it was like 3 days, 2 nights, and I will tell you, I did not sleep. I was in fight, flight, freeze, disassociation. I had to sit in that and I had to be like, okay, Valerie, what is going on with you? This is not then, this is now. I cried. I had to almost like just really rewire my brain system. And I couldn't stop it from happening, right? Because the worst thing could do. So when John got back home, he's like, "Oh, how was your time and all of that?" And I was kind of got a little quiet and I was like, "Well, it's triggered a little bit." And then he's like, "Well, tell me about it." And I shared with him, and he was so calming, and he just hugged me, and he's like, I'm not going anywhere, and he was my safe space to heal. But had he taken it in the wrong way, like well, that's not me, you need to get over yourself. Like I think when we go into, I guess what I'm saying is when we go into another relationship, when we still have things that we don't know that are unknowingly unhealed, you have to give yourself some grace. And even when you're having
Mhm.
triggers, because what I have learned is I sit in them. And I'm telling you right now, that is pure hell. Like it is the worst, darkest place to be when you are like honestly in almost a panic attack, your fight, flight. I have suffered with disassociation my entire life. This last 2 years, I've really been working and have tools to now come back grounded to myself. But that is just the worst to be. But allowing yourself, knowing, when you've been through things. And now when I do that and I'm able to kind of let it release from my body, I don't have it. It's like it healed it somehow. Like I don't have that thing. Like if he's like going to Vegas for something, like, I don't know. I've let that go. I've truly been able to let that go and heal from that. So I think in my healing journey, I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question, but I just think there's a lot of things that were, that still come up that are from trauma and that, but I'm able to recognize them and be like, no, that's not healthy. That's not, I want every day my goal is to be the best version of myself. And there's no perfection,
Mm.
right? So it's not like, oh, you're going to be perfect. No, it's today, all the things that I do today, the people I meet, and everything. I want to show up as my best self, whatever that looks like. Some days we're not feeling it, so we might only energetically be showing up 50%, but still I'm, showing up. And I feel like when you do that, you just continue, to keep going up and creating that better version of yourself. So when you do have days that are not so good that you come back down, you're not coming all the way back down. You're just continually growing, and then you come a little bit and continually growing, and you look back a year later and you're like, wow, I don't even recognize that person.
Mhm. Mhm. I really love what you just touched on in relation to healing not necessarily being about perfection. One of the biggest, I think, misconceptions that I've heard a lot from people in their healing journeys is that healing makes you nicer and kinder. And I don't believe that is necessarily the case because I
Right.
truly believe that as we heal, we start to learn how we are maybe not saying no when we want to. We're maybe
Right.
not facing conflict head on and we're avoiding it. Perhaps we are ignoring red flags or things that are happening in our lives. And a big one is around boundaries and how, previous unhealed versions of us might not have had boundaries or upheld any boundaries and allowed people to walk all over us. And so I know that for you, you talk a lot about learning that boundaries aren't mean. They're proof that you believe that your life actually matters. So I want to know, when you started making all these changes, when you were healing, when you were growing, what was the very first boundary that you set and who did you set it with? And how did it go over? Did they listen to it? Did they lean into it? Did they fight against it? What has this kind of taught you?
Okay, when I first started on my journey, I was really isolated. So I wasn't around a lot of people. So I will have to say boundaries that I will tell you. So boundaries that I did set. I did have a few girlfriends back then. This is coming back to my mind right now. I had a few girlfriends after my second divorce, and I started setting boundaries. Like I started, if I didn't want to go do something, I would say, yeah, I'm not gonna, I don't want to do that. Or I just started having a voice. I started to slowly get my voice back. And it didn't turn out well for me because I didn't realize the type of person in counseling and different things. I had very narcissistic behaviors in people that I attracted, but then I was a major empath. So I'm not, I had people that always had that thumb on me, that always had to control
Mm,
me in passive aggressive manipulation. But as long as I did what they said, the way they moved me around, then it was good. Life was good. And when that second divorce, I had probably had, let's say, six girlfriends at the time, do things with. One by one, they started walking out of my life. The more I started stepping into who I am, it's a very different person than what they were used to because now they can't manipulate me and they can't control me because I put these boundaries up that I'm learning me and I
mm,
have to find who I am. And it was very, very disheartening whenever the last one went, and that was a couple of years ago. It's like, wow. And I'm not saying they're bad people. We were just, as I was trying to grow, I no longer fit into the friends that they wanted. We outgrew each other. So it's not one's better than the other. So I'm going to be very clear. Like sometimes we think, oh my gosh, they don't like me or this or that. It's like you know, we have two different like where we're going in life, two different places. And one of my coaches told me it's like if you're at a train station, Valerie, and they're needing to go one direction and you're on a train to another one. It's not that it's one's better or not the other. You're just going two different places in your life right now. So that helped a little bit, but it was very painful at the time when you're like, oh, I'm on this healing journey. This is so great. My friends are all going to support me and they're going to love this. And, I'm going to find out who I am. And then you stop getting invited to things and you hear people are talking about you behind your back and saying things that aren't truthful. And you're getting all like misunderstood. And it's already hard enough to try to heal, much less, having things it was very hard, but I stuck to it. I did. I stuck to it, and I have not had any real girlfriends. Like I have one friend, but I haven't had anybody in 10 years. And just recently, I decided I'm ready, and I know like what connections I can have, and I have put myself out there, and I have met three of the people that literally I feel like have been lifelong friends. Like they're strong women. They're not jealous. They I don't trigger them. I'm allowed to be me, because
mm,
I've always told my people, you're just too much. You walk in a room, you're just too much. Like you're intimidating. You're present. And it's like I would always shrink. Like, okay, like I'll walk in, I'll just kind of, just not make a lot of, contact and kind of dim myself. But then I started realizing like recently, but no, that's not who I am. Like I like to have fun and I'll, like to walk in and I want to hug people and I want to, you know, I have like a gift of encouragement. I want to like it's just me. It's not being too much. It's coming from a very authentic place. But one of my friends said, Valerie, you don't understand because I've had some, you know, I guess looking back my entire life, any women's circles I've tried to get into, I've had a lot of jealous women come to me, say things to me, very hurtful. So I've always had to try to dim my light to fit in.
Mm.
And I'm 55 now and I'm like I'm done dimming my light. And even now I've putting myself out there. I've had a few that, you know, my friend said it's okay. You have to still be you. They are in their healing journey that you trigger them because they haven't healed from XYZ. And then you're coming in and it has you have to keep being you. So I'm glad I have friends that were able to, talk me off of, it's very easy to kind of just step back again. Like, this is why I don't want friends. And I hear that from women all the time. Oh, I don't want women friends anymore. I don't want to put myself out there. I'm done with that. I'm good here by myself. But we need connection. And when you have that right
Mhm.
connection, I'm telling you, I came home on fire the other night when I was out with the girls with my husband. I'm like, that's what I needed. Like, you just have to find the women. My friend said, we're strong women. We've already gone on our healing journeys. We're not going to be, catty and passive aggressive and gossip. And I was like, oh, okay, yes, this is nice because this is where I'm at in life now. And again, it's not better or worse than other people, but when you have taken the years to heal, it's like your inner circle. You want that to be people that you're ride or die. And of course, I'm going to be kind and nice to all the people, but just having that inner circle of women, I think we can move mountains and we can change the world and we can do all the things if we have like two good girlfriends behind our back that are there like, okay, you got this, go. And I want to be that for women that are in my life, like behind them, like when you see somebody that has a gift and a talent, but they're struggling with really allowing the world to see who they are and we don't get to see those gifts. It's like, no, come on, like, get behind them and support them. And we we as women, we can change, I
Mhm.
think we can just change so many things. And it just breaks my heart in being in midlife, the women that I see in the circles, just how cutthroat they are to people. It's like, we're already going through a hard enough time, perimenopause, menopause, all the stuff we've been through. Let's get on the same team. And like, I think I was reading somewhere like 18% of the world is in perimenopause and menopause. It's a very small part, because men don't go through it. And so we should come together and wonder if we came together, this 18% of us women that are in perimenopause and menopause, and we literally 1000% started supporting each other, lifting each other up. I mean, I'm talking we could have all kinds of breakthroughs in all the industries and everything because getting women to show who they are and stop dimming themselves. I think that's the big thing I want people to hear because I've dimmed myself my entire life, 55 years. I always turned the light down because I was too much, but I'm too much for who? It's like
Mm.
I'm too much for the wrong people because my tribe I'm enough for. Like you're enough for the people that is your tribe, and that's been a hard lesson to learn that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I recently, in the last few years, heard the idea that if somebody ever tells you that you're too much, you can tell them to go find less. And since I heard that, it has
Hmm.
completely reframed so many things in my life because I
Yeah.
too, in a lot of ways in my life, thought I was too much in how I was showing up and my energy. And the amazing thing is that there are a lot of women who are waking up, who are healing, who are
Hmm.
doing this
Yes.
work, who are starting to have each other's backs and raise each other's up. And I think we are on like the cusp of a really big change happening where
Hmm.
this is just occurring more and more often, which is such an incredible thing. But I do try to remind myself, and a reminder for all of our listeners, that anytime there is some of that projection, that's jealousy, things are present where somebody wants to dim your light and snuff it out, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's because they are scared of their own light and don't have that courage or that understanding of how to let themselves be as bright as they possibly can. And I don't know if you follow Florence Given on Instagram. She is one of my favorite people to follow. She's an author as well. She always has these little videos from her show, and she talks about reframing that, like, who does she think she is, to being
Mm-hmm.
like a motto for her life and how she shows up. And she wants that to be an energy that she embodies. Like, who do I think I am? And I just love that so much. I think if we
Yeah.
step into that power of like really just allowing ourselves to be our full selves, what incredible things we can achieve in this world just by being seen and heard from everybody else. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, since this is like such a passion filled, I don't want to call it a rant, but like a really important thing that you're speaking towards, and obviously you have like a lot of wisdom behind and excitement for. I want to know, for the women that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, etc., who are maybe struggling, maybe think that they already dealt with something, but it still keeps coming up in their life, or they're dimming their light, they're just like not allowing the full them to be seen. What advice would you have for them in relation to moving forward in their lives? Is there anything that you can suggest they work on, they look at, they make changes around, etc.?
Yeah, I think you just have to, first of all, just be real with things. Like if you notice there's patterns in your life, patterns are going to continue. Patterns don't stop until you do something to stop the pattern from happening. And so just being mindful and being like, okay, this is a pattern that I have. This is a pattern. Like I noticed that I isolate myself a lot. That was one of my patterns. It was just easier to isolate myself and not go around people, and not because then I didn't have to worry about being told I was too much, or all of these things. And in doing that, I had walls up. You have your
Mm.
walls up because you're it protects you. And I think on my healing journey around this topic, what you're talking about, my walls were so high that, I don't, I had walls around walls and above walls. And, just like there was nobody going to crack to get in me. I didn't care. It didn't matter who you were. My mom, it doesn't matter who. People would say, you were just unreachable. And when I realized, yes, I kept the bad out, but how much good did I keep out? How many
Mm.
relationships like I have met now have been there, but I didn't trust and I didn't even give it a chance. And so in doing that, I realized, if you want to heal anything in your life, I feel like it's impossible to heal when walls are up, because when you have a wall up like this, it's covering your heart. It's covering, so as hard as it is, I had to slowly, intentionally get out of my comfort zone, let my walls down, even if it was a short time, to like reprogram my nervous system that it's safe. Like, okay, Valerie, it's safe to be you. It's safe to show up. You're going to be okay. And the more and more that I did that, and the more and more that I got my walls down where my heart could be seen, and people could see my heart, people could see where I was truly coming from, and I was able to cry through things. I was able to, just work through the hard things that, it's not easy, but just really breaking it down, reframing it, calling it something else, no longer where you focus your energy goes. So I had to literally allow those walls to come down. And I think that has been the hardest thing I've done, because no matter where I go, I talk to women and they all say they have walls up, and they all say they're quite proud of it. And I was too. I'm not gonna, I don't trust people. I'm not going to do that. But when you start trusting yourself, I think it's not about not trusting other people, because when you can start trusting yourself and you start healing yourself, you see the red flag, your value, your worth, like you're not going to fall to that. You've seen those cards played before. Like, yeah, I'm not playing that hand anymore. Like I can see it coming, 10 miles down the road. I think when you heal and you take ownership of things, that's when life for me really started. I really started to feel like I started living. And now it's really funny, but because I broke through different layers in healing, I kind of get excited whenever it's like my next layer of healing. Okay, what's this going to be? Because every time, as hard as it's been, I bust through it. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm like 100 pounds lighter, and I feel so I don't know, just free, just a freedom, a peace, a happiness, a joy, a love that I've never had before. Like when I run into people that knew me in my past, they're like, I've never seen somebody change as much as you have changed. Like I've been in the grocery store just recently, like three or four different people I ran into. They're like, "You're so happy and on Facebook and this, and you used to always be so like kind of bitchy and like kind of mean, and like we were always so scared to come near you and even say anything, and you're just so open." And I was explaining, yes, when you heal and walls come down, and you're not having to prove yourself to people, and you're not having to earn your love, and you're not having, and you're able to heal things of the past in a way that you can come to acceptance. Anything that's happened in my past is not changing. I just have
Mm,
to reframe it, why it happened, how it happened, come to acceptance and learn from it. And then, not repeat those things. And now being very intentional every day of, keeping my walls down, knowing myself. I think the greatest thing that we have in life is getting to create the best version of ourselves. Like that is
mm,
something that you can control, you can change. You can't change or control anybody else. And I really do believe when I started healing and that it's been better for everybody around me. Everyone that's around you gets the best version of you. So it's not selfish. It's not selfish to take a season out of life, a time out when you're really trying to figure you out. So in turn, you can be better to everybody around you.
mm. I love everything that you just touched on, and I could not agree more. I think that there really is a lot of magic that can happen when we are consciously healing, right? Consciously
Mhm.
changing, consciously growing. There's a big difference between like just going through the motions and doing things versus being very intentional and purposeful when we are engaging in those changes, those patterns, those etc. So I just love all of that. And I have one final question that I want to ask
Okay.
you. And
Yeah.
what this is in relation to the 12-year-old you. If she could look at you now in your life, where you're at, what you've achieved, how far you've come, how do you think she would feel?
I think she would feel beyond excited, beyond happy. Like, even though she had to go through that, it built strength in me to create who I am today so that I'm able to, pay it forward and help other people. And hopefully, even in the things that I share, that if it can just help somebody, even one little nugget that can help them on their healing journey, then it's all worth it.
Hmm. Oh, yes. I think so. I think she'd be very, very proud of you too.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, Valerie, it was such
Uh,
a pleasure to have you on today. I appreciate our conversation so much. I know that our listeners will have gotten so much out of today. And I want to give you an opportunity to share where they can find you. If somebody's listening and they're interested in following along your journey, perhaps they want to work with you, where do they go to find you and all of that information?
okay, so the easiest place is you can go to my website. So my coaching is called doitscaredcoaching.com. And my handles for Facebook and Instagram are Do It Scared Coaching. So that's the easiest way to find me.
Amazing. Okay. And I'll make sure to have all of those links below in the show notes. So if anybody's driving or doing life things and they weren't able to jot that down, it is all there and available for you. So don't worry. Valerie, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I deeply appreciate our conversation today, and it was a total pleasure to host you. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it as well.
You are more than welcome. And a big thank you to all of our listeners. We appreciate you being here with us today. If you loved what you heard, we'd be so honored you drop below, leave a review, connect with us in the comments, or send this episode to somebody you think should hear it too. I'll catch you in the next episode, and remember to go regulate yourself. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Go Regulate Yourself podcast. If you felt called out in the best way, I would be so honored if you drop below and leave a review or share this with a friend who needs to hear it too. And remember, regulate yourself before you wreck yourself. I'll catch you in the next episode. Mwah.